Yep.
But now you can talk over the theme.
Yeah, I know. It's
Now it's not
cool.
totally awkward.
I know. I was like getting back into old habits of like waiting for it to be over before I could talk to
Okay.
you.
He's got to wait the whole time for me to. Yeah, no. Now it's a little bit better. See, I did my homework, but it's been a long time since I've talked to you.
It's been quite some time. It's been almost a month, I think, just shy of a few days.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, dude. Pretty crazy.
I treat this as kind of like my sanity check. Like there are a couple things in life that are like sanity checks, right? Or things that that maintain your level of sanity. This is definitely one of them for me. Um, I'm like, oh, cool. I get to talk about some stuff. I get to let it out. Like it's gonna go. Like we're gonna listen to some cool music. Like this is a good time. This is a good time.
It's I do agree with you, but for me it's a double-edged sword. It's exactly what you said, plus the fun times of trying to get all of my software and hardware to work together.
And yeah, so funny peek behind the curtains. Like I priced out a stream machine. Um, I was like, okay, like if I was gonna build just a computer to handle a live stream, right? That could be managed remotely, that I could just have you stick in a closet somewhere that I could
Mhm.
just run from my computer. I'm like, how much would that cost? And I looked into it and I was like, all right, so if I'm going to put it there, it's got to be liquid cooled. I'm like,
Of course, of
so
course.
then I went down that rabbit hole and I'm like, all right, so I want mini ITX, but I want a super thin, attractive case. So I put this case in there. I'm like, it has to have this PSU. I'm like, and we don't even need a video card because we're not even outputting any video to anything, right? So I'm like, all right, so I can use that whole entire space that it has for the PCI graphics card, and I can just put a big old freaking liquid, radiator cooler thing in there for the CPU, and I could go Threadripper. And I'm like, heck, let's put 32 cores in this thing. Like, might as well have it, be future proof.
Oh my gosh, dude, we could do like 1080 60 frames a second.
4K 60 frames a second. I don't know what
4K,
you're
there we go.
talking.
There we go.
No one needs to see that. But so then I
No.
budgeted my rig, and I was like, okay, well, there's a number less than $1,000 that I could get to easily, um, to do that. But then it's like, the whole, all right, like, should we do that? Like right now, especially with, this is all before like, um, who is it? NVIDIA announced all their new graphics cards and stuff like that too. And I'm like,
Yep.
hmm. And then I was like, okay, well, what's the hardware decoder on that going to be like? And how's that going to be for streaming? Right. It's all built for gaming and workstation. Oh, okay. So nerd. Went down the
Yeah.
nerd rabbit hole, got lost in the nerd rabbit hole, came out of the nerd rabbit hole, was like, I'm not spending any more money. There's no way. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Not when there's, well, okay, I'll save that for wrap up. I was going to say something and I caught myself because I know what you put in wrap up.
Hey, oh yeah.
Oh, all right, no spoilers.
Oh boy, there you go.
All right.
Okay, so song stuck in our head. Yeah, I'll get mine out of the way because mine um, is a YouTube link that I stumbled upon actually, and I had been listening to this song. I don't know how it came up in my YouTube recommendations, but it's "Holy Wars" by Megadeth, and it's got like this famous solo in there, right? Like everyone lauds this as like one of the best solos like ever created. And I was like, yeah, it's a good solo. Like I like it. Dave Mustaine is not a clean player, and every time I see him live, I'm like, oh, Dave Mustaine, you're so sloppy. Why are you so sloppy? Don't be so sloppy. Uh, so I saw this, and it was Macedon, Revocation, and Deathclock coming together to cover Holy Wars. And I'm like, Macedon, nice. Revocation, extra nice. Deathclock, I'm sold. Where do I sign? So I clicked the link, and then it's I forget the guy's name. I think it's Dave or David on guitar for Revocation.
Yeah, it's both. It's Dave Davidson.
It was start with an S though. Wow, man. My knowledge of metal names, especially with people with like two first names or similar first names and last names. Anyway, Dave Davidson, like I love him on guitar. Like ever since I remember showing you Revocation, we've talked about that, and I was like, all right, this is gonna be good, right? Because whenever people cover Megadeth, it's always amazing. Jeff Waters has covered like a Megadeth solo for Symphony of Destruction, and it's amazing, right? Like it's great. So when I saw them doing this cover, I was like, all right, I'm sold on this. Like Macedon vocals, Revocation guitar, and Deathclock on bass, and then I think someone from the whatever magazine was doing the YouTube thing. I think
Metal
did the drums.
injection.
Metal Injection, yeah, there we go. I think
Okay.
they did the drums. But the second solo in Holy Wars is my favorite because then it bumps into like the really thrashy section. But that's when guitar is front and center, and I'm all for it.
Heck yeah. All right, so we'll take a listen here at around 424.
This is the second solo too, right? You know, but
And we pick up.
oh man, and it's such a tone shift, or like just in terms of like how the song progresses. This little little breakdown right here before the final like guitar lead solo. Like, you know, notes have meaning, and notes have power when you bend them right.
They're so powerful.
It's so powerful. It's not like overly complex either.
Is it Dave Mustaine actually doing the solo in the song?
No, not for this one. No.
Okay.
Definitely.
I'm trying to think. This was on Rest in Peace, right? Pretty sure this is on Rest in Peace.
Ruggy emoji.
Because I think at that point, I think it was still Marty Friedman who was in the band playing lead guitar. But also, like for his kind of soloing, it's not overly complicated. Like he does some pretty complicated stuff, but that one's a little bit reserved. But it still sounds great.
Yeah. So I needed, man, I don't want to bury the lead too much here, or I don't want to get it too much into like what I'm gonna talk about. But like this is kind of like the cool drink of water that I needed. And I've watched it like 3 times because I was like, I need something good, something classic, something I knew, something that was safe, right? But something that was like refreshed. And this definitely gave me.
Nice. Yeah, that definitely sounds like it fits the bill for sure. Cool. So the song's been stuck in my head is actually kind of interesting. I stumbled across this, I think, from like a metal magazine, like website, like social media post. This particular artist by the name of Nightlight. They are a synthwave like producer, and they make some really good stuff. I'm haven't really gotten too much into synthwave, but after listening to the song up and album that I'm about to show you, I am wanting to go down the synthwave avenue there. But they did a complete cover of the album Symbolic by Death, but all synthwave.
I saw the track name and I was like, if this is what I think it is.
The entire album, it's so good. Oh my gosh. Like it's really cool because you have to really pay attention to pick up on where all the leads and melodies and chord progressions are, right? Like it's all there, but it's so different, far removed from the original that like if you're not paying attention, you could think this is just any old synthwave track, but no, like it's there, it's good. Crystal Mountain, one of the best death metal songs of all time. It's a perfect synthwave song. So we'll take a listen here to Crystal Mountain by Nightlight right from the beginning here. Work with me.
Work with me.
Why are you not playing?
It was too epic. It was so good.
Hang on here. Let's try this again. So it can play what it was playing before, but it doesn't want to play my...
Can't handle it. It's too powerful.
Can't. Guess it cannot.
So powerful.
Let me try something else. Let me stop that. Oh my goodness. Why is this so difficult? Let me just refresh the page here.
This is just like a story for how the month has been.
Yeah, right? Here we go. Isn't that so good?
Mm-hmm. Oh no! Dude,
Isn't that so good?
I want someone to do like that 80s spy movie, action movie with this as like the backing.
Yes.
Did you ever see Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron?
That was good.
Yes, that was good. And this music goes perfectly with that vibe.
This is one of the more upbeat songs on the whole album for this cover album. But it's so good. I love all the sounds that I'm hearing. Like it's amazing. I love it.
Gosh, I'm gonna have to insta add to Adams. It bypasses all the buckets. Like there's no bucket to put this, and there's just like insta library.
Yeah, when I think it was on Instagram when I came across this, and like I saw the album artwork, I was like, oh, okay, something about like re-releasing Symbolic, awesome. And then I took a closer look at it, and like even when you take a look at the album art, like you could see like there's some synthwave like themes in there. I'm just like, wait, what?
Hold on.
Hold the phone.
Let's be honest. There's a lot of Death like re-releases and like live recording sessions and other deep archives that they start releasing, right? So you look at it, you're like, okay, well, what is this one? Is it like an anniversary type thing? Is it this? And then you're like, hold on, interest peaked.
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh,
we do
good stuff. Yeah.
So I just gotta say this. What's up, old man?
Yeah, I don't know. Getting older is weird.
You're so old now.
I am so old. So for anyone, so for anyone who doesn't know, I had a birthday last month in the middle of the month on the 18th. Hence the reason why we took a break for that week, just to give us some time to kind of recoup, relax, and then we'll come back and with some awesome music and stuff. So old, yeah. I don't know, man. It's weird. I feel older this go around.
I don't want to sound like the cliche, like, young person turning old man type thing, but it's like when you start noticing that you're getting older, it's weird.
It's very weird. Like I'm growing my beard back out and like I'm noticing even more gray hairs this go around. I'm just like, all right, I knew this was going to happen. Like I just got to accept it. Like don't freak out.
Gosh, man, you're just so old, old.
But
like mid-30s now.
Yeah, 33. But I mean, you're also older than I am, so like,
you never know. Like you
never would. You're so productive with everything, and I feel like I'm not. So.
Oh no, it's all a facade, man. We'll see that again later. It's the walls come tumbling down at a time, and it's mainly after you hit 30. So kids, get ready, because
here we go.
Life's not going to turn out the way you thought it was going to.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any other like sort of catching up you want to do before we kind of keep rolling, or how do you want to do this?
Well, let's catch up on your underground corner, and then we'll continue catching up on the rest of it.
Dang. All right. So I had to really think about how I wanted to approach like my batch of music this week, because I've been listening to a lot of new music, and I could have thrown most of my options into the underground corner here, but I figured I can just touch on the other bands that I discovered when we get to the main section, and I'll just keep this section right now for one. Like just one band. So normally in the past, I've done like a twofer or something when we've skipped a week, but I'm just going to pass that this time. I've got enough other bands to highlight. The one I want to take a look at, though, is the band called Embryo. I think I stumbled across them on Spotify. They're really interesting. They have a sound off their latest album that's very reminiscent of Stormlord. Like some of Stormlord's older stuff, but if they mix that up with like Fear Factory.
Ooh.
Yeah.
More industrial. Whoa.
Like a little bit industrial as far as like the riffs go. But oh man, it is super cool. They have, I think, 3 albums in total. I've listened through all of them. You can definitely tell, like starting out, they were a little bit unrefined, I guess is like a good way of saying it. Like they're still trying to,
Yeah.
yeah, like trying to find their footing in a way, like what they were trying to do. And then the second album came around, and I think they were refining it more. They're like, okay, this worked on the last album, so we're going to focus more on that. And they did that in the second one. They're like, oh, we hit on something. So then they just cranked it to 11 on the third album. And yeah, it's just really awesome. So we'll take a look here at the track Vanguard for the Blind off of the album A Step Beyond Divinity.
Okay. Kind of taste it. There's hints.
This really reminds me of a particular Stormlord song.
Nice, nice.
It's this sort of like rhythmic chugging going along with the double bass, right? Like that reminds me so much of Fear Factory. And they've got a ton of other songs that sound even closer to Fear Factory.
Funny, yeah. Like I like the guitar riffage and stuff like that. The vocals and like the synth like backing, right? Like it sets up the eerie tone, right? The kind of like, all right, you know, kind of like deeper guttural, like, you know, vocals with synth wave to kind of cut, you know, some of it, intermixed with this guitar riffage. Interesting point.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they get to it in this song, but the vocalist does kind of change up his style of growls a little bit. So like he's got these really low gutturals, but then he's got like some really high, like raspy screams that sound really good. So that's pretty tight. I was trying to feature a song that had that in it, but I was just so in love with this intro. I was just like, man, I gotta show it.
It's it very much like grabs you, right? Like you're like, okay, I like this, and then it keeps going and building on it, and you're like, okay, this is good, this is good, this is good.
Yeah.
And I like when bands do that, right? When they have something that works that can grab you from the start and just keep you engaged. We talked about intro tracks famously, right? Like how, you know, you can build up this whole story, but sometimes you just need to like get to the point. Not dragging on forever, like a 30-minute song. Like I don't need that.
You'll never let me live that down.
my one doom metal thrash trash talking is done for the episode.
It's all good, dude. It's all
I only
good.
get one.
I don't care.
I get one.
All right. So, yeah. So taking a look at our main topic for today, I think I have one extra song. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. Yep. So we can zipper it, and I'll just start, and then I'll have, you know, one at the start and one at the end. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine. So this episode, right? Like I think we talked about, you know, getting back into the swing of things for us is always like, it's always weird to come out like if we haven't been talking for a while. And it's like, okay, like let's coalesce around like one topic. And it's like, dude, we've been away for so long. Like we've all been on our own journeys, right? Like
what are topics? I don't even know.
Exactly. So especially with like the longer breaks that we have. And I mean, like long breaks for us is like one episode off.
I know, but when we do it every other week, it just feels like it takes a month, you know?
Feels like a long time. So it was like, all right, well, we've all been listening to music, or we both have been listening to music, lots of new music. Like, let's just catch up on like what we've been listening to, like you said. So you discovered a ton of bands, and I think this episode called Music Catchup, which I said Catchup or Catsup in our show outline because I was trying to be funny. And I think I put that in the stream info too, just because I tried to be funny again, and no one's laughing. So
it could just be that no one's there, and that's totally cool.
No, I'll accept the fact that it's a comedy club is full of people that are just like sitting there, you know, blank face, staring at me like
crickets.
Tell the joke yet? Get the hook. So for our music catch-up episode, we're just going to go through just bands that we've been listening to for the last, you know, like close to a month. Yeah, man, you have more than I do, as per the norm, right? So yeah, go ahead, take it away.
Cool. So I think last episode, as I was looking through the show notes here, or like the outline that we have, last time I think I featured a band. What was it? Insomnium, right? They're from Finland. They had the former guitarist from Sonata Arctica. I do remember right before the lockdown happened earlier this year that Insomnium was doing a tour with a couple other bands, and they were coming to San Diego. I saw like a poster at the that Cult of Luna show that I went to, and one of those other bands was called Omnium Gatherum, and I hadn't heard of them before. Like I saw them on that flyer at the show, and I was just like, oh, okay, well, if they're with Insomnium, like they're probably very similar. I got to check them out. And I finally got around to it in the past month, and I was not disappointed. Um, Off of the album, let's see here, Beyond. They have a song called New Dynamic. And again, right at the very beginning, it really has this awesome melody. And then the rest of the guitars and drums come in. It's super sick. So we'll just take a listen right from the beginning here.
This is in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I thought when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh crap, Adam's gonna love this." I love the album artwork too.
Shoot, let me check out the album artwork. Oh dang, man! Like, you and I are such San Diego kids. Can I just say it? Like,
I'm
what a
in.
freaking surfer bro like comment to say like, oh, I love the album art, and like a wave crashing. I'm like, oh yeah, duh.
Oh hey, Beer Jesus, how you doing? I love this melody too. They're a very melody-heavy band. It's amazing.
See, like that's what I'm in for, you know. Like I know you said you pin my style, but like, I'm into that, right? Like give me some good riffage, some good like melodies on top of that the whole time, and I'll listen for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've so like since the last episode we recorded, I've been listening to a lot of like Insomnium and bands of the like, and this naturally came up, and I was just like, yes, this is great. I love this. Like I could listen to this all day and never get bored of it. You know, like it I don't know, there's something about it, like it just makes me feel good too. Like that some other music that I listen to, like while awesome as it is, it doesn't always like make you like feel good, right? Like it isn't like, you know what I mean?
No, okay. Dang it, Steve. You and I are always on that same wavelength. Yes, very much so. I feel you. Like I feel you. We did the whole episode on metal and feelings, right? And
Yes.
different like feelings in music and stuff like that. But yeah, very much like this whole time away has been a journey for me. And I know I kind of teased that, right? Like you said, like this music made you feel good. Right? Like I started my like little journey, right? Like in the heavier side, like I was like, all right, I'm gonna break out, listen to some new music I haven't listened to in a while, right? So I know I picked up like Black Dahlia Murder, from our podcast like ages ago, and I'm like, I'm gonna start listening to that again, and give that another try. So first track on my list, if we're gonna switch over to that, is gonna be Black Dahlia Murder, and it's Nightbringers. And when I listened to this, I remember, favoriting this track because I was like, oh man, Black Dahlia Murder. And then they came up again. I was like, oh, okay, this is good. This is something I have to, like keep in mind. And it was, it's not my traditional wheelhouse. Like it's kind of verging into like a different territory for me. Traditionally very metalcore, like that's just kind of what I liked. That's what I was comfortable with. And I was like, you've obviously introduced me to much more heavier stuff. And Black Dahlia Murder is kind of like that gray area, right? Where I'm like, all right, like I can dip my toe in that water, but not like fully jump in, in the freezing cold waters. That's a good
Nice.
like metal lyric right there.
Yes, that was a very good metal analogy. I love it.
So Nightbringers from Black Dahlia Murder, this is kind of how I started my musical journey over the last, couple weeks, is I was listening to this, and right from the beginning, like I get some of the things that I like, the riffage and, a little bit of like chugging here and there. It's great.
Nice.
good headbang start, right? Like this.
Yeah.
This is kind of how I started, where it's like the song wasn't like to make me feel good, right? It wasn't like that the happy-go-lucky like song for me, like not the one that more pumping. But I was like, this is different, this is new, I like it. Like I'm in the mode of discovery. That's where I was when I started to sing, and this is where I started my journey.
Nice. You picked a good one. This is a really good album, and this song in particular is really good.
Yeah, like we featured Black Dahlia Murder a couple times, right? And I think the one song that we featured has also been on my list of like repeat songs.
Nice.
But this one was the other one that I had added. Like this is a song that I'll definitely listen to on repeat. It picked up like I love the vocals in Black Dahlia Murder. Like usually I'm not a big fan of like any like death metalish like kind of vocal styles, but like these guys like bring a nice measured approach to that, and it's kind of like I said, the way for me to dip my toe in that water. I really liked it.
Yeah, for sure. And they're always really good too about like they're good at like pushing the envelope and like developing their sound. But like it's always refining like what they did, right? Like they're trying to stay like a little bit ahead of the crest as far as like what other bands are doing. Going with a beach wave analogy, I guess.
Continue that analogy. We'll ride that one all the way to shore.
Yeah, there we go. But I feel like Black Dahlia Murder, like definitely like they build upon like their past catalog. Like with some bands, like if they're trying to be relevant or stay ahead of the pack or whatever, right? Like sometimes it can lead them into some weird territory that doesn't quite make sense for them as a band. I feel like Black Dahlia Murder doesn't really do that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a safe space. It's the lukewarm pool,
Yeah, there we go. We're still 3.5 feet.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's toned down or anything like that, but it's like it's a safe space.
Yeah, for sure. You know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. There's no riptide that's gonna carry me into like, I'm not gonna say 30-minute songs because I already used that joke, but
Yeah, it's all good. All right, so back over to my side here. The next band on my list is one I discovered very recently, like within the past week or so. And I bring it up because I feel like first off, I was hooked pretty much immediately, and I didn't think I was going to be. And then I was about to switch it, and then it like got to another good section. I was like, oh man, they're really just trying to pander to me now. So the band is called Act of Denial. The song we're take a listen to here is called Puzzle Heart off of the album of the same name. Have you heard of this band before?
No, I have not.
Okay, so you're going to experience this just the way I did. I feel like it's going to be kind of in your wheelhouse with some extra flair. So we'll take a listen here right from the beginning. Oh, it starts out a little bit quiet. My bad.
Shut up.
When I first heard it, I was just like, oh, okay, like this is some metalcore that like I'm actually into, right? Like I'm going to keep listening. And we got some synth action. I'm like, okay.
Why haven't I heard of this band?
Right? Like, I would definitely listen to more metalcore like this, right? So, like, this is pushing, like, August Burns Red territory that I can kind of see, right? Wait, blast beats.
Dude.
I was about to change it right before that, and then I got to blast beats. I was like, oh, shit, man. Like, now you got me.
Like, I was going to change the channel because I'm like, this is metalcore. This is the same old metalcore. They're like, wait, blast beats.
Oh. And we've got some other synth action going on too. So.
Okay, like,
here we go.
Now we're into full-on metalcore territory though. Like
when I heard this too, I was just like, man, like I like this, but like I feel like in a way I shouldn't, based off of like my past listening history, right? Like,
can see how this one's like tugging, like this one's like pulling you apart, right? It's like you're like, oh my gosh, this is so good, and the guy opens the this, oh my goodness, this it and the things and.
That's exactly how I felt. That is the embodiment of what was happening inside.
Meanwhile, I'm over here like. Smash that like button, ring that bell, ding, 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 ding.
Yes. So yes, Act of Denial. Go check them out. They're pretty cool.
Sweet. So in the continuation of my little journey, I started just like throwing things on shuffle, as I do when I try to discover things, and then this very like punkish song kind of came on, and I was like, did I like hit the wrong playlist? Like, what happened here? So the band is Corrosion of Conformity, and I was like, dude, like, all right, this is very punk, like already, right? Like I'm feeling big time punk vibes from this, but it's like punk mixed with metal in a way that I hadn't like heard for like in a while. And it feels like old school punk mixed with metal. So I didn't do any research on this band to see like how old they were or if it was like a new resurgence type thing. People like retry the same thing 800 times and see if it works, the fifth time.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was something like that, but the song is called Clean My Wounds. And from the beginning, like you just hear like punk, and then you hear like almost like mastodonish vocals come over it. And you're like, what am I listening to? And this was kind of like where I knew I was getting kind of lost in my quest, right? So like Black Dahlia Murder started me on the right thing, and like I was now verging into a territory that I thought I knew but didn't really know and wasn't sure if I was going to like. So if you listen to the song from the beginning, you'll kind of get an idea of like where I'm coming from.
Oh yeah, dude.
Right?
That guitar tone is total like Offspring smash.
Totally. I don't know what I'm doing here.
But yeah, like I don't hate it.
No, and that was the thing. So much like the last one was tugging at yours, I'm like, this one was tugging at mine too. I'm like, all right, this is on my metal list.
Yeah, Corrosion of Conformity is kind of an interesting band. I think they've been around for a really long time, and I think they may have like changed their style a little bit over the years, but I don't know too much about them to really confirm that. But I always knew it was more towards like the punk or even like hardcore side of music.
So this is one that came on where, after listening to something like Black Dahlia Murder, I'm like, what happened? Like, did they think I really needed a breather?
Yeah,
and
who knows?
I wasn't sure if I liked it. So it was really weird. And this kind of like trended into my like weird journey. And the next track like took me off into like the wilderness, but we'll get into that after yours.
Yeah. All right, cool. So next on my list here, there isn't like a real sort of story with any of my bands. It's just stuff that like I've been listening to for different reasons, trying to discover new bands or, listening to bands that are related to another band that I like, something like that. For the next three bands here, actually, I've kind of been doing research for guitar tone because I started guitar pre-production for my band Warsade, based in Wisconsin. So we've all in the band been talking a lot about it recently and trying to find like, what's the type of sound that we're looking for. So one of the bands that I kind of stumbled across trying to find a good guitar tone is this black metal band. I think you pronounce it Uada or Uada. It's Uada. Not sure of the official pronunciation, but they've got an album called Cult of a Dying Sun. So we'll take a look at the title track. Hey, 2 title tracks in a row.
Hey, man, it's you.
Look at that. So I had heard of this band before, but I hadn't really like listened to them. Like I've seen the name before and I knew they were black metal. So like this is kind of a gray area as far as like the underground corner type of band. But I figured I'd just kind of throw it in there as like one of the new ones I found. So we'll take a listen to Cult of a Dying Sun.
like one note.
I think what I really liked about this band is that, like, even for black metal, like, you can still hear everything relatively clearly. Like, the bass is there, the guitar's obviously there, the drums are mixed decently well for black metal, so, like, it's kind of refreshing, and that's something I really come to appreciate in black metal.
Yeah, man, you like the triple filtered vodka, right? Like,
yeah, just slightly more refined, I guess.
Like the spaghetti where you can taste the meatball.
There we go. And I also just like this riff. The way everything's kind of structured here does remind me of some of the War Sage stuff that we have. So this was kind of like a starting point for me as far as like my guitar tone journey.
There you go. I can see very much how War Sage very much fits like the bill for this, right? Like, this is very much like similar type of song structure. Like, tone would be something like, okay, well, if I start with something like this, like, good foundation, especially for something that's mixed well too, right? Like you said, it's kind of a rarity that you find this stuff. So it's like, okay, since I've mixed it well, I can really at least kind of get these notes. I can pick out what I need to. Like, this would be a good thing to kind of emulate or match.
Yeah, for sure. So that band's really cool. I checked out the full album, Cult of a Dying Sun. Really awesome. Highly recommend it.
Unpopular opinion on me, like, I'm not a big fan of, snare hits all the time.
Like with blast beats, you mean?
Very much so, yes. Blast beats and snare hits.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan. And
all good.
It's funny because I remember seeing different bands and different techniques, and some of them are like, really light, touches, especially when they get into the blast beats, because they can barely like they're focusing so much on the legs that they can barely keep the handwork up. But then there are other ones who are like super loud in your face, snare hits, and I'm like, okay, dude, I am just getting drowned out by like bap, 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 and I'm like,
yeah, I will admit on this album that is a lot of that. Like, the snare is very prominent. There's a lot of hard hits on the blasts, so I can definitely see how that can be it can be kind of tiresome as a listener. But now that you say it, I hadn't thought about it before, but I do tend to appreciate where it's like not always like that consistent, right? One way or the other. Like, if you can change it up a little bit, like if you want to, like if you want to maybe accent like something on your snare during the blast, that would be cool. And you can like play that around with some accents on your cymbals wherever you're at. Like, that would be really cool. I don't think I've heard too much of that yet. Usually the snare is pretty consistent with black metal blasts, but
I think we've talked about like drummers and having to keep time, right? Like how traditionally, like drummers, that is one of the roles, right? Is like you are keeping time, right? Be consistent as a drummer is something that's like highly desired and something that you work for over and over, years and years of practice. And I think, you get into flavors of things that are so fast where they start blending together. It's like you still need something to ground you. So I think a lot of times like the snare is the natural fallback to that. But it's a reason that I like bands like Lamb of God, like and Chris Adler and other drummers who, they can still find ways to keep time. But by, like you said, accenting it or mixing it up or, adding fills, adding this, adding anything to break up the monotony that feels like here's the metronome in the background for this track for, a full 10 seconds before we switch to something else. Put that in your little note section, be like, write that down. My thing. Yes, if anything, just turn down the volume on your snare, like just crank that down a tad. Get more listeners like Adam who are not your target audience, but whatever.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. All right, so back over to your side, my man.
So this is where my list went into like crisis overload territory I have not been before, and territory that I was like, I kind of like where this is going. Like I like the vibe that this is giving off, but I am so far, like I am not in Kansas anymore at all, right? Especially for like the music I listen to, right? We talked about like punk, we talked about some metalcore stuff, so you can tell like I'm pretty much on the tame side of things. So then the song from Ghost came up. And I know Ghost is traditionally like a like satanic, kind of band. And I was like, you can say what you want, right? And
they've got some culty tones for sure.
And like they got the vibe, right? They have the persona and the stage performance type thing going on with it too. And like me being raised like, Christian was a thing, it happened.
It
Um
happened.
and like I'm a very big proponent, and I teach this to my kids too. Is like I'm like, you can believe whatever you want to believe. I want to teach you how to, interpret data and interpret facts and interpret, whatever's given to you and to objectively look at it. So as long as you can do that, whatever you want to believe, as long as you're doing that, I don't care. So I very much like turned the corner from, my upbringing, into the land that, most, I don't want to say anything that would offend any of my family members or anything like that, but like, I'm not the person I was when I was a kid.
Sure.
So
Makes
me listening
sense.
to this was kind of like, all right, like I get this. Like I'm not on that level, I didn't like do the full 180, but I'm like, I appreciate music for what it is, and I appreciate people's beliefs for what they are. Like I think it's come to lend me to be a very accepting person in that like whatever you want to believe is your business, as long as you are not trying to push that on me, you know, indoctrinate me into whatever, or like try to bring me into like I'm okay with that, right? You do you, I'll do me. Like that's a thing. As long as we don't hurt each other, like we're fine, right? Like as society,
Yeah.
we can move on together as long as we don't blind ourselves to, facts and science and, whatever, affecting each other as human beings. Anyway,
Yeah.
wow.
We're
I'm trying
getting
to
there.
stay
We're
away
getting
from
there.
that. I know, man. I'm trying to stay away from it. So Ghost Year Zero came on, and I've watched, like, did you ever watch the film Rosemary's Baby?
No, I feel like you might have asked me this before, though.
Okay, so we all know that I have like an irrational fear of like demonic possession slash whatever movies, right? Like anything that's non-tangible,
Supernatural.
exactly, supernatural kind of stuff. I don't fuck with that. That is not in my cup of tea at all. Um, so Ghost coming on is kind of like, all right, I've watched Rosemary's Baby. I know the idea of, like the rebirth of, the devil and all this kind of stuff. So when the song Year Zero came on, I'm like, okay, I know what Year Zero means. I know what that's all about. And I know what Ghost is all about. And the song came on, I'm like, all right, I'm getting very much like Omen Rosemary's Baby vibes from this song, but I like it. I enjoy what's happening here. Like this is good. And
I
like
should be scared, but it's exciting.
this is good. I'm into this. So from the beginning, it starts off really slow, so you can play it, and I'll keep talking. But it's very much like, you get into like the chanting, and very much like I'm like, all right, this is like church bell like type, hymn chanting stuff. I'm like feeling the Omen. I'm feeling, but I'm like,
Yes, I remember the song now. It's been a long time since I heard it, but I totally remember this one.
I was like, this is good. Like, talk about setting the vibe. Real simple too, right? Just a little guitar, Like, man, like how far have I strayed from the path, right? When we talk about that, like,
Yeah.
where I knew, like, I'm like, all right, I am in a place in my musical journey, in my life journey, whatever it is. It's a very, like I said, it's been a month.
Yeah.
This year, I'm like, it's something.
But like when you look at it like from a musical standpoint, right? Like what's actually going on, like compositionally, you're just like, wow, that's like really interesting, and it has this cool effect. It sounds good. It's well produced. Like you can't be mad at it.
No, and that's kind of, like a lot of this has been like tearing me apart, right? Like you're tearing me apart. It's, so much of my picture tearing apart of like my traditional type thing, one side on the other.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think this was like the breaking point, right? Like for me to be like, wow, like I have, officially ripped open, like things like carrying my soul with me, because that's like very like like that's what I felt when I listened to this song 3 times in a row.
You did a double encore?
Oh, yeah, I did, because I was like, and it was I was in the zone because I was working at the time, and when I listened to it, I'm like, this is different. And I was like, I looked at the artist, and I was like, okay, and I listened to it again. I'm like, I need more of that. Like it was just like the right tone to keep me going, right?
Sure.
And then realizing, what you've done. You're like, I listened to this song 3 times, and I would have never, ever, ever listened to this song if I was half the age that I am now. There, if you want to feel really old, like let me take you back to half the age that I was, and I would still be driving a car.
You know what? I was gonna bypass it, but since you went there, uh, it while we were listening to the song just now, I was thinking to myself, like, one, I'm pretty sure this is the first time we featured Ghost on the show. I This isn't a band I have not been crazy about this band at all. Like, I just think they were too they weren't as hard or heavy sounding, right, as they perceived themselves to be.
I get that.
So like it felt like every time I would listen to them, I was just constantly being let down because like I would be getting tricked by the imagery, thinking it's going to be something better, or I have a different idea of it, right? And it doesn't fulfill that, and then I automatically think, oh, well, this is crap. And like you said, exactly. Like if I was any younger, like I would not be listening to this band. But as I get older, I'm appreciating simplicity. There's
Finding
something
things alive
about
for
it.
some of the most simple, like well
Yes.
executed stuff is better than. Oh my God, we're so
Yeah,
old.
I know. And I didn't think that I was going to get to this point in my life, but apparently just had to wait till I was 33.
I think I was going downhill then, man. I think that's the breaking point,
I don't want to see it as a breaking point, though. I want to see it as like
turning point.
a turning point. I think like I'm trying to like view this from the lens of like my own music creation, right? Like most of the music I've tried coming up with or have come up with like is technical in a lot of ways, and I feel like I can see where like I'm overdoing it. And like now that I'm listening to a lot more music that's like toned back a little bit in a lot of cases, and is more simple, like Omnium Gatherum, for instance, like they're not a complicated band at all, but like what they do is amazing. And I'm like, shit, I can do that all day. Like, why don't I just do that?
I think everyone gets bogged down in like in wanting to be like the best at something, right? The best at one particular thing, like, oh, I want to have the best this, and then other people get bogged down. It's like, well, I want to have the best of all these things, and it's like you're not taking a step back and looking at the whole picture, right? It's not like I want to have the best this album or whatever, right? Or the best composition. Like it's more like I want to have the best guitar tone, or I want to have the best guitar solo, or I want to have the best rhythm, or I want whatever, right? It's all individual pieces. And gosh, like if you want to talk about getting really old, you start talking about project management and dealing with cross-functional teams, and say like, you know what, like every team can be amazing, right? And they can all be the expert in their craft, but if they don't all come together and say like, how do we all work together to deliver a great product, it's never going to work. Oh my God, I'm a project manager.
Dude, but you really nailed it though. Like because that's literally like how a band works, right? Like all of the instrumentalists coming together being like, how do we make this work?
And I've been perfectly happy being an individual contributor. Like I'm perfectly happy in my little wheelhouse, right? That's where I want to stay. I never manage people. Never, ever, 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 ever. I'm on tape saying this, and this is for the record. Like I never want to do it ever.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. All right, so I think we're back over to my side, right? All right, so I've got to cue this one up here. So let me talk about this band. Let's see if I can multitask. Let's see if I can do this. So moving away from Uada or Uada, however you pronounce that, there's another black metal band.
Uada. You. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Alanis Morissette. I know what you're talking about.
Oh my
God. You know why I know that? It's because growing up, when right around the time we got our N64, right? My sister had recently got like 2 albums. One of them was Alanis Morissette. So anytime we played Super Mario 64, we were listening to one of 2 albums, one of which was Alanis Morissette. So it's hard for me to dissociate Alanis Morissette and Super Mario 64.
Super Mario just came out with the All-Stars edition, like the re-release of all games, Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy on the Switch.
Oh, dang. Okay.
I have been neglecting to pre-order that, or, well, I mean, it's out now, so I wouldn't pre-order, but I've been neglecting to order it because of, like the current game that we're involved in, which I'll get to in wrap up. But yeah, man, I feel you, right? Like that takes you back.
Yeah. All right. So, getting back over to my black metal here. The band I want to highlight here is called MGLA, but the L is like a special character. It's got like a little slash through it.
I
Not
thought that was a
sure.
bug on my screen, to be honest.
No, no. I don't actually know what any of that means. They're kind of an interesting band. I like what they do musically. I don't like the people individually. We can get more into that later, but they're kind of a questionable band as far as like individuals go, but they make good music. So they released an album not too long ago called Exercises in Futility, and they didn't really name the tracks on this album per se. It's just the album title and then Roman numerals for each of the tracks. So it's like Exercises in Futility 1 and then Exercises in Futility 2. I don't know. I've seen bands do this. I think Insomnium actually did it on one of theirs, but they did like part 1, part 2, something like that. Anyway, it's a thing, whatever. I want to take a look at Exercises in Futility 3. This was another band that my bandmates and I are kind of looking at as far as guitar tone goes. We're not looking for something overly polished, but like slightly dirty, but in a way kind of controlled. So we'll take a look here at about 20 seconds in. Whoops, undo that.
That character is the I bar, also known as barred I, the letter of the Latin alphabet, formed from I with the addition of a bar.
Oh, so it's MGIA, not LA. See, I learned something new.
Phonetic alphabet, it is used to represent a close central unrounded vowel. Put it in the chat. It's straight from Wikipedia, so it's
I'm trying to remember what I learned in my linguistics class when I took German, when I was going to college for German.
Here we go. So if we want to do that, hold on. I need to listen to this track before we get in this next part.
Yeah. I'll this up a little bit. Oh, sorry. We're back with the blast again.
Yeah, so I figured it's back for me, so I missed the good parts. So in American linguistic tradition, it is used to represent the weak vowel heard in the second syllable of roses when distinct from rosas.
Okay. If I had to pronounce that whole band name.
So there we go. Or I could just have it speak it. I think that would
that'd be interesting. Let's go ahead and pause it then and see what
I don't know if I have my system sounds piped into that, but let me see if I can do some speaking. Okay. Well, that was useless.
Oh well.
It says just MGEA.
MGEA.
So that's not correct.
Gia.
Gia.
Oh gosh, that's good. All right. So I'm looking at that band as kind of like some inspiration for guitar tone. So I'm not sure if you were paying attention too much, but it's a little bit harsher, a little bit more grating in a way, I guess you could say. There's like a lot of high frequencies, which is totally cool. It's pretty typical of black metal. And I'm totally open to trying to like experiment with like different sounds too, trying to get away from my sort of normal wheelhouse of tones. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think I've really I know what your self-titled project, guitar tone was like. I could pin you there for your power metal tones, right? Like I got that one, but I haven't fucked around much with your your Warsade tones, right? To get too much into that.
Yeah, I feel like our last album isn't a really good representation of that for reasons, but I mean,
it's why you release more albums, right? Like
exactly.
Why you do what another band that I'm going to feature does,
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about your band. There we go. Thanks for that segue.
No worries. So I'll jump ahead to that band since we just talked about it. So in my quest, which I had completely gone off the rails at this point, right? Like I'm in a place where I don't mind being, but it's like I need to ground myself at some point, right? Like I was at a place in my life where it's like I needed to to hold on to what I knew at the time, right? Like I had gotten so wrapped up in something else that I needed to ground myself on what I still was, right? Or to see if that even was still a thing. Oh my gosh, this is deep.
It is
So
deep.
I know. So In Flames released a re-recorded version of Clayman. And In Flames is a band that's, I listened to in my early metalcore days. And I didn't get into them until, what was it? Reroute to Remain. And when I got into them, Clayman was the album before that. So when I listened to that, it was like just a little too raw. So I'm like, all right, well, I like In Flames now. Like I definitely like In Flames. Like the whole arcade album that they did of their last album was like one of my favorite go-to things when I'm feeling video game vibes. Um, so when they released this re-recorded, Clayman album, I'm like, well, this is probably going to be pretty good. So the whole album is just a re-release, but then they have re-recorded versions of these songs, and that's controversial in the aspect that In Flames now is not In Flames as it used to be, right? Like people grow, people change, tones change, whatever. So a lot of people are like, I don't know if I really even like this re-recorded version. It's not why I got into In Flames. Like, heck, man, if you've ever seen them live, they can barely pronounce their own name when they introduce themselves. Like, hey, we're In Flames. Yes. Because, it doesn't translate well, to them.
Yeah.
But Clayman re-recorded, I listened to it. I'm like, okay, this is a comfort food for me, right? This is my biscuits and gravy, right? So
Gravy sounds
Clayman re-recorded. If we listen to that from the beginning, like all the reasons I kind of got into In Flames, right? It starts off kind of weird. And you're like, okay, metalcore vibes, feeling it. Totally. It's very much like their original version, but just polished. But the vocals is where it really changes, right? It's very much that's usually what happens, right? People, the voices change. Guitar tone can change, but guitars still sound like guitars. Voices, since they're muscles. Always like In Flame vocals, so don't shit on them for me right now.
I mean, I don't hate it. I think it definitely sounds like a vocalist going back to older stuff after he's had years of practice.
So I can do this track 8 times without blowing out my vocal cords. How does that work for you?
Yeah, how do you like them, Adam's apples?
Hey! Nice one.
I did that tweak midway, like as I was starting to say it, I was like, oh, I could tweak this.
I am so adding that quote right now. How do you like
them Adam's apples?
Them.
Them Adams. Gotcha.
Adam's apples.
Oh. Nice. I love that.
So this is the way for me to get back to like, all right, this is comfortable, right? This is stuff I've listened to. This is stuff I know. This is like I said, my biscuits and gravy. I'm starting to now bring myself back to like, is this still the person who I am? And the answer to that is maybe after listening to this, right? Like I said, this thing's a journey. I still don't know, right? So it was kind of like a maybe, I guess so. So back to you, and then we'll finish on my story in the next segment.
Sweet. No, you got 2 more. We didn't.
Oh, anyway, there's a happy ending, Steve. Come on now.
Okay, sorry. All right. Moving on. So in my guitar tone quest here, the last band I want to feature is called Falls of Rowrose. I found out about them, I don't know, a number of years ago when I was still living in Wisconsin. One of my bandmates showed them to me. Really awesome. Another black metal band. They're kind of atmospheric, I guess you could say, in a way, but they're not atmospheric in the way of like building up an atmosphere with like synthesizers, because I feel like a lot of times with atmospheric black metal, like they rely a lot on the synthesizers. This band doesn't do that so much. They use their guitars and effect pedals to kind of help create that atmosphere, which is really cool. So I'm going to take a look at the track called Weapons of Refusal off of the album Patterns in Mythology. So give me 1 second to get it queued up, and we shall be good. Get ready for the blast beats. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. I'll look past it.
I just really dig this riff.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, like that riff isolated almost sounds like an intro to kind of like a Star Wars thing.
Almost, yeah. I can totally hear it. Like, even though he's doing a blast beat, I feel like there's a bit of a groove behind it that you can kind of feel, like, going on between, like, the bass drum and the cymbals.
Yeah, like, again, I don't want to dig too much on my hate of blast beats, but, like, you just got to give me more, right?
Yeah,
like, you can't be focusing on 2 parts and neglect the other 6 that are on your kit. You know, like, I get that you got 2 hands and 2 feet, you know, I get that. But, you know, at least for more than 6 seconds, you know, or less than 6 seconds, you got to vary it up for me.
Yeah.
Again, if it's mixed properly, like, I'm all for a grounding, you know, like double bass beat or a grounding snare. Like, I'm all for that, like, as your groove track, like, or as your bass, you know, metronome, right? Whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things we talked about when we were talking about mixing, right? Like, I think, you know, my approach to mixing has always been like, okay, what's the groove track? And mix that first, right? And then mix everything else around that. And, you know, going back to, you know, black metal, kind of, you know, ragging on them a little bit is like, cool, so snare? And I'm like, no, man. How about no?
Please no.
And, you know, snare is a great, you know, it's a great instrument on its own, right? It's a great piece of the kit, but it's like, it can't be your focal point. You know, like, I say that as it can't be your focal point, but like, it can be there to ground you, but it can't be the driving force of like everything, because it's so harsh, right? Unless you tone it down a lot, in which case it's just kind of like muffled, right? Because the snare is meant to be like a hard hit, right? Like, as you talked about, like variations in snare, hard hits, soft hits, you know, like whatever you want to do. Like, don't give me like 50 hard hits and then a rim shot. Like, I don't want that. Like, that's not what I'm asking for.
No, man, I totally hear you, and that's a totally valid point. And I think, like, after we had that conversation about mixing, and like you were talking about, you know, the groove track and building a mix around that, like, I knew that's a thing like producers do. And like, as I've kind of been working on some other music projects the past month or so. So like, I kind of started doing that, and for some reason, like, it just seemed to click more. I was just like, oh my gosh, this makes so much more sense. You find that one instrument you want to be like your foundation, right? You get that sounding perfect, and then you build everything else around it, instead of trying to like have everything on at the same time and be like, how do I make this work?
Building a house, bro. You got to start with the foundation.
Start with the foundation. So I am constantly learning in my music production journey. So thank you.
No problem. I cannot take credit for that. That was a lynda.com course. So thank you, lynda.com, for teaching me new things.
But it still didn't sink in until after talking to you about it. So
hey, you didn't have to pay lynda.com. Lynda.com, not a sponsor of the podcast.
Okay. Over to you.
I was lost, then I am found. Let's bring it full circle to Christian Gospels. I needed something. I needed a cool drink of water. Like, I needed that. And In Flames, the re-recorded version, kind of got me close, but I needed something that was like the bro fist moment of like my kind of like culmination of music, right? Or like my coming into being of music. So for me, that's metalcore. And I was kind of reminded of this track from Killswitch Engage off their latest album, which is called Signal Fire. And for those who don't know, Killswitch Engage started with a lead vocalist, Jesse. And Jesse left after the first 2 albums. and was replaced by Howard Jones. And Howard was an amazing vocalist, brought this whole new like energy to the band, like still kind of kept it metalcore, but like brought a different flavor, but everything about it was still Killswitch, and it was great. And they released like 4 albums with Howard. And then Howard had to leave for health reasons. And then they were left with kind of like this vacancy and like, who do we go to fill Howard's shoes? Because Howard was such an influential part of the band, like such a big part. And Killswitch, being the awesome band that they are, they brought back Jesse, right? Like they just like, hey, you know what? We have 2 albums with this guy. Like he's worked out his stuff. We worked out our stuff. Like let's come together and see if we can, reignite some sparks, right? So they do that. They release 2 albums and it's amazing, right? It's Killswitch like it never skipped a beat. But then the ultimate thing that they do is in their latest album, they do a track where they bring back Howard to do guest vocals. So Howard and Jesse, like this is all of the Killswitch like that you love combined into one thing. And like I said, there's that ultimate bro fist moment where in the music video, which is where I got this song stuck in my head because I watched the music video again, they fist bump in the middle of the song.
Yeah.
And I am so for it. Like it was everything I needed to say, like, you know what? Like you still like what you like. You listen to all this other cool stuff, that introduce you to all these different sounds. You thought you were losing yourself, but no, like you still have it. It's still you. You can still like other things, but Killswitch Engage, Signal Fire, 40 seconds in, you get some Jesse, leads, and Jesse's a great, like lead vocalist and some clean vocals there. But then you have Howard come in for the second verse and just, I want to bang my fist, fist pump in the air, so freaking much Jersey Shore style up here. Like,
oh my gosh! Oh no!
Pound the ceiling out. So good.
All right, shall we play this?
Yes.
Cool.
Like Jesse's got great clean vocals, and so does Howard, right? But at this moment in the video, you see Howard, you're like, wait a minute, is that Howard? What's he doing? That? Everything I want! I'm here for this.
I do remember seeing this music video when it came out, and it did get me thinking more about why don't we have more than one vocalist in the band, right? Like just vocalists, not playing guitar or some other instrument, right? Like
what if we had 2 multi-vocalist bands?
Yeah, like think of how much
not side.
Yeah, not that. Yeah, nothing on the side. Like 2 lead vocalists. Like we do that with guitars, right? Like we have 2 lead guitarists essentially, right? They'll trade off rhythm parts. Why can't we do that for vocalists?
We're echoing all of the YouTube comments on this video, by the way.
Because really?
Straight up, I went to this, as in my moment of a journey, right? In this journey that was going on, I went to this and I looked at the YouTube comments, which is usually a thing you don't do, right? Everyone tells you, advises against that. I went and I looked at the YouTube comments and oh my gosh, I'm here for the fist bump. I'm here for, Howard's scream. Like I'm here for, the trade-off. Like I'm here for that. I was like, why can't Killswitch just have 2 vocalists, right? Like why can't they do that? This song works so freaking well. And also, they have the double bass going in the back. They have Adam on guitar, tearing it up. Like this song was everything I needed to kind of bring me back, right? To say you know what, at my heart, this is what I know and love. And this song, as you can tell, I was super amped for every time I listened to it. I'm like, this is me to a T, right? Metalcore is me. I know that's my life.
Yeah.
And this defines it. So
nice. It's a good song. That whole album's really good too. All right, so back over to my side here. I've got one more band here that would have normally fallen into the underground corner because I had not heard of them before. They came up on my Spotify Discover Weekly playlist. The band is called Memories of Old, and I'm not gonna I'm not going to give too much away because I don't know too much about the band, I guess. So I'm not going to say what genre it is. But they're called Memories of Old. The song is called Land of Ixia, Xia. And this is off of the album The Land of Ixius. I did 3 for 3, man. I did
It's a trifecta of title tracks. Like, I
How
know
did that? I didn't even see that coming. Oh my gosh.
I've been waiting for the trifecta of, like artist, album, track. We've been waiting for that. But oh my gosh, we've hit 3 title tracks by one host. Miles.
This is definitely a milestone. We'll have to celebrate somehow, I guess. I don't know. Let's just listen to the track. How about that? So like, yeah, I'm gonna like it.
I mean, don't twist my arm or anything.
Yeah, like, it's like, I think I know why this one popped up on my Discover Weekly playlist, as we'll see in the next my next band that I choose or that I'm going to showcase. But this is, I mean, it's just classic like symphonic power metal, man. Like you can't go wrong. Got some synth lead action.
Yeah, man. I was just gonna say they hooked you with the synth too, didn't they? As soon as they brought that in, you were done.
This is like Rhapsody, aka Rhapsody of Fire, like all over again. Gotta get some vocals.
All right.
Doesn't that sound like the guy from Majestica?
Yeah,
Right?
It does. Okay, come on. We can't gloss past that. I feel like your American linguistics or your Chinese linguistics for XIA are a little off there. Maybe fantasy linguistics are totally different. Maybe we're just overlooking, like Elvish pronunciation.
Maybe. I don't know. But
what does
anyway,
the extended edition have to say about XIA? What does that have to say?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not I'm not a true fan.
So funny you mentioned Majestica, right? Because after this journey that I went through, right, of going into dark waters, which is kind of what I do, right? Like you go into the pool and you come out and you're like, okay, well, I need to like relax and dry off, or stick to something comforting, right? I needed to, and this is today, mind you, right? Like I needed a feel-good track. And I was like, you know what? We're recording tonight. Like I have to bring something different to the table. And I was going through it and I was just like coming up empty, man. I'm like, there's nothing I want to listen to. There's nothing I want to feature. And I scrolled past this band, I shit you not, 3 different times saying like, I can't choose that. I can't choose that. Like we just featured that band not too long ago. Steve loves this band. It is not mine to pick, right? But Majestica, I turned it on, the album, and I felt so fucking good after
right?
I turned
You can't,
it on.
like, that's exactly how I get with it too. It's just like, you know what? Having a shitty day, put on Majestica. You're gonna feel great.
And that,
take 2 of these and call me in the morning.
man, I listened to 2 tracks of Majestica and I was feeling right as rain. Oh my gosh, man. So we featured Above the Sky, which is the first track on the album, right? So I'm like, well, I can't do that again. So I picked the second track, which is just as freaking good.
Right. They're all good. It's so amazing.
So Rising Tide off of Majestica's album, like this was like the feel-good music that I needed, right? I'd been through this journey and like I didn't know what else I was going to try to listen to. And I needed something in the moment that was just like uplifting, good power metal, like amazing song, and Majestica is what brought it home for me.
Nice.
Let's play the guitars. power metal vocals, like you just want to sing along the whole time.
I do.
I felt so bad because my teenager was behind me. She like got class meetings all day long because they're doing the whole distance learning thing. I'm sitting here with my like noise canceling headphones on, and I'm humming like the lyrics to this like completely out of nowhere. Right? She's probably like, "Oh my god, where's my dad? This is ridiculous."
That is such a dork. So annoying.
I'm a fan. Dang it, man, I feel so happy now.
I know.
And like the lyrics are so upbeat and so like out there, just like completely out there, like over the top power metal type of lyrics, right? And I'm like, I love every minute of this. This is
yes. So I think it's on the third track on this album, Rat Pack. I read the lyrics to that song, and it is really funny. I don't know if you have or not.
I've listened to a couple, like you catch the lyrics, when you're listening to it, and you're so focused on following tone that you listen to the lyrics and you're like, wait, what did you just say?
Yeah. So
I'm power metal right now. Like this is almost like a parody band, right?
Yeah. So in that song, the Rat Pack, they're basically talking about like going out to like a club or something, right? Like he's got like his what he calls the metal horde, just like your posse or your group, right? The metal horde. I think it's so good, first of all. But then like getting confronted by all these like freaking rich kids, like they're just like spending money on their dad's credit card, like whatever. There's one line where they're like something about like being mad that like your hair is made of goo and not of metal. Not of goo.
Is that okay? So when I was listening to this, I was like, all right, like all these songs are good, and I could pick so many. And there's one where like he does this really high squeal, kind of like in the middle of it. I want to even say it's the Rat Pack one. Maybe it's even that one.
You're talking about. Yeah.
And I was like, I wait for that every single time because they build up to it, and it's so ridiculous. They have stuff about like current affairs. They have stuff about politics. They have stuff about everything, and I'm just got.
In the first track, Above the Sky, there's one verse where it's talking literally about the song structure, like the chord progression, and then moving into a different bridge, and like this and that. I'm just like, what?
And there's one about Father Time, like having to kill Santa.
Yes,
like, it's so out there, but it's so good.
It works so well.
And this was like the thing that made my day and prepped me enough to be able to come to this podcast and say like, I listened to Majestica today. I feel amazing.
Yes. All right. So last one on my side here that will round out the main topic for tonight. There is one band that I have been featuring a lot recently, and they released a new album recently. And I wanted to especially feature it because a special someone got me this album on vinyl. And it's great. I love it. The band is Unleash the Archers. I've been listening to them so much lately. I actually made a playlist on Spotify called From Apex to Abyss, and it's both albums back to back. And I have to tell you, listening to that while playing Elite Dangerous is one of the coolest experiences, dude. It is so good. So off of their latest album, Abyss, we're going to take a look at the track called Faster Than Light. No bump. Keep the power metal going. Wait for it.
Brittany Slade.
Yes.
So this album, right? I listened to this album so many times, and when I saw that they have the vinyl available in special, pressing, and I was like, "Geez, birthday's coming up." And then I had to like make up a story to see if you had already gotten this for yourself. So I'm like, all right, like, what can I do to convince Steve that I'm looking for vinyl to see what vinyl he has without blatantly asking him what vinyl he has? So then I asked if he had spare vinyl that you would be willing to part with because I was trying to spin up my own vinyl set. And you're like what, like records that I want to give away? And I'm like, yeah, like what records do you have? You know, like,
I do so very much appreciate your attempt. It was really funny. I love
it was
it.
easy to talk about.
It's like,
I was like,
yeah,
oh, you're gonna get something in the mail.
LOL.
Oh, it was so good.
Yes.
Like, I think it was really funny because when I talked to you about this album, you know, because when it came out, I think we both listened to it back to front, you know, at least twice. And you're like, you know, like, I don't know about the album, right? And it's really funny that you say you made the playlist as a continuation from Apex to Abyss because they mention that in the lyrics, right? And when you think about it, right, like the song, I want to say it's Abyss, right? It actually talks about, you know, the mountains being replaced, like being thrown out of the place that you were in into this new place, not knowing where you are and all this kind of stuff, like thrown into the future almost. And that so matches how they went from the last album to this album. And I remember I sent it to you. I'm like, this is an album, right? It's a story, right? Like it takes you from beginning to end, a continuation from the last album, which was all based in like, you know, kind of like medieval, you know, like times. And now you're in the future and you're talking all about that. Songs are Abyss, Faster Than Light, you know, like all these futuristic things. I'm like, they did such a good job. And when you take that into consideration, again, stepping back, looking at the whole product, I was like, A+, good job. You deserve all the money. I'm going to buy your vinyl and send it to a friend because I can't listen to it on vinyl and I want to pay you more money than the CD is worth.
Have you seen any of like the YouTube videos Brittany Slays has done, like breaking down each track as like what the story's about?
You know, I've watched like the, you know, like reaction videos and the music videos, but I haven't seen like Britney Slays actually talking about like the songs.
Yeah, she breaks down the entire story. It's a fantastic story. It's amazing. So homework for you.
Yep. Well, I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's on. I'm pretty sure it's definitely like on the Unleash the Archers YouTube channel, or if not, it's on Napalm.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
Amazing.
So yeah, I've been listening to tons of Unleash the Archers, and I kind of made my rounds through some black metal and some other stuff, and then yeah, just been listening to more Unleash the Archers.
Yeah, then just wrap that, you know, with Unleash the Archers like a sandwich, you know, Unleash the Archers,
Yeah.
You know, some other ingredients, and then Unleash the Archers.
Started off with Apex, all that stuff in the middle, and then end it with Abyss.
There you go. There you go. All right, so I think that's it for at least our music catch-up. I think it was a good catch-up. There's a lot for us to catch up on.
Yes.
And I think we both kind of went through journeys, and it was kind of very interesting. You got the sandwich analogy. I got my whole identity crisis going on. Like it's a good time.
Good stuff.
In a little bit of wrap up, we have to talk about something.
Yes, we do.
I have a problem. We all know this. And the problem is headphones. So
tell me what happened.
Do you want to take a gander at how many headphones I have purchased in the last month?
If you have to set up that question, I'm scared.
No, right? Like I'm actually asking the quantity. How many do you think I've purchased? And I gave you a time span, which is in a month. How many headphones do you think I've purchased in a month?
So I'm assuming more than 2.
More than 2.
More than 3.
More than 3.
Dear God, more than 5.
Equal to 5.
Equal to 5. Okay. Wow, 5. That's like more than 1 a week, dude.
Here's the thing, man. They're not for me. That's what makes this story so weird, right? You're my sponsor, and I'm bearing my soul to you, right? That you're falling off the wagon, right?
You have to sell me on this.
I didn't consult you before I bought these headphones, right?
No.
Thing is, my kids have gone back to school, right? They're doing all remote learning, which means that they are in an open space together, you know, because the rooms are pretty cramped, right? And it's hard to do, work like in the room. Like I want them to have a place where they can sit. And the rooms that we're in this house are small, so I can't like afford like or fit a desk in all of this. So we have my desk area, which is in the open loft, and they have their desk area, which is also in the open loft. So naturally, with all of them in meetings all day, right, on computers, like they need a way to listen to this that's not through the speakers. They need headphones. Now, Daddy's got headphones to spare. Let's be honest here. Let's put that out on the table now. Like Daddy's got headphones. Daddy can provide headphones. And I don't want to make this sound weird, but like, I have headphones. I have spare headphones that I can supply. But I wanted ones that were going to be suitable for my kids, right? No secret, I have a little bit of hearing loss. I'm 100% certain from listening to very loud music as a kid, from going into concerts and like attending loud, drag races and NASCAR races, without the proper ear protection. Right? It was a thing, it was like you're a kid in the 90s and your dad was into muscle cars. Like this is what you did, right? Like we went out to the desert, like ruined our hearing. So I don't want to do the same thing to my kids, right? My whole thing is like I want them to learn from my mistakes, or I want to at least set them up for success and not make the same mistakes or have the same things happen to them that happened to me that I regret later in life. Big thing. So I wanted to get them headphones. I wanted to get them headphones that were suited for children and at least volume limited so they wouldn't like blow out their eardrums if they accidentally turned it up too high.
Yeah.
So I bought 2 pairs of kids headphones for my youngest kids, right? Okay, that's where the 2 come in, right? We get those headphones. Those headphones were shit. They were horrible headphones.
Oh my gosh.
I hated them. They were meant for kids, but they were awkward. The Bluetooth was limited. Like they could only pair to one device, and like it was spotty, and the drivers were like really bad. Like I listened to them and it wasn't great at all, right? So I was really upset with those. And turns out that they were like on the verge of creating like a brand new headphone. So then they released the new headphone. And I'm like, I still don't want that. I ended up going with a different brand. So I returned 2 headphones, bought 2 other headphones, right?
Okay.
Replace those. Right?
Okay.
So I was like, okay, we're even now. If we're still net 2 plus, right? In the meetings, but we returned 2 other headphones. So I got those headphones, and those seem to work out fine. They're on ear, they're not noise canceling. They're nothing fancy, so it was fine. I ended up paying less than I paid for the kids' noise limited ones.
Okay.
And I have a teenager. Teenager needs headphones too. Teenager is bigger than the other ones, and the on-ear headphones are probably not going to cut it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go all out. We're going to do over-ear headphones with noise canceling because she's on way more meetings than the other ones are, right?
Okay, yeah.
She's in middle school, 8th grade, right? Like they're in meetings all the time. So I bought another pair of headphones.
Dang.
So let me see if I can show you here.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's do it.
Three boxes of headphones.
Yeah, man, look at that. Look at that. Ah, that's a lot.
I bought 3 different pairs of headphones for my kids so they could do their schoolwork. And I returned 2. So it's a total of 5. Returned 2. I'm net 3 headphones. None of them are for me. Am I still
I'd say that's definitely progress, because the whole point of your addiction is to not do it for you.
It was very hard. I was very tempted to buy a second pair. I was like, well, I got to use a pair of these, like why not?
Yeah, come on. They're not going to be using it all the time. Like, come on.
So headphones.
Headphones, indeed.
A little bit of a mislead, but
it's all good. It worked out. Good stuff.
It's great. And then I was able to repurpose another pair for my wife. So she's on, calls all the time too now. So basically when you come in my house in the middle of the day, everyone's talking to themselves. Everyone's got headphones on, so no one could hear each other talking to themselves. And it's just it's a fun party.
Yeah, I feel like that's how most households are in 2020 now.
What a month.
What a month. Shall we call it there?